going on, dudes? It is David here. We are back with another video. Now, in this video, guys, in today's video, like I did last week Saturday, it's gonna be kind of a different style video. We're gonna be going all out of the sports every single Saturday and doing some different type of content, top 10 content that went down pretty well last week. So we're gonna do another one here today, but this one's not gonna be about couples. It's gonna be about a certain, shows on a certain network. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about Nickelodeon. And I'm going to be giving you guys my personal top 10 list of their shows. Now, I narrowed it down to 6. This is shows I watched, guys. This is shows I watched. I narrowed it down to 16 out of the whole programs that Nickelodeon have had. And I'm sorry, but I'm a late 90s kid, but I didn't really watch all of that or Kenan and Kel. So those shows are not on here. Most of the shows I started watching was like early 2000s, late 2000s, early 2010s. And I haven't really watched Nickelodeon programming in the past couple years. So the late 2010s, probably not. It's definitely not going to be on here. But I just wanted to say this. Number 10. This list was actually really... I thought it was going to be tough at first. But then I realized it wasn't actually that tough. Now, I feel like when I get to Cartoon Network shows, that's going to be really, really tough because Cartoon Network had a lot of good shows that I actually did watch. Of course, my favorite show from Cartoon Network is Total Drama, but there could be another show I liked more than Total Drama before, so we'll have to see when it comes to that. But anyway, let's begin off with number 10 of the top 10 Nickelodeon shows, in my opinion. Number 10 is Invader Zim. We all remember this show for two major reasons. Obviously, the show's main character, Zim, wanting to take over control of the Earth and never getting to do so. Every time he tries to or wants to do so, something else happens. And the second reason we all remember this show is Gur. We all love Gur. Like, Gur is one of the most favorable characters on that show, along with Dib, and I'd probably say Dib's sister. But Gur is just on another level. I mean, the first time we actually started liking Gur was when he sang the Do song for like, I don't even know how many hours straight, because they were flying from their home to Earth, which probably took them a long time. And the fact that Gur was able to do all that, and then of course Gur dressed up in a dog. He had a dog suit on, and that just made Gur a lot cuter. His love for pancakes, his love for food, his love for everything. It was just very funny to see, and that's why I have Invader Zim at number 10. Over some other questionable shows that we'll get into the honorable mentions when we get closer to number 1. Number 9 is Drake and Josh. Drake and Josh is the reason why iCarly happened, and the reason why Miranda Cosgrove got her big break on iCarly. But we all remember Miranda Cosgrove was on this show as the little sister Megan, who used to torture Drake and Josh, Drake Bell, and Josh Peck. Now, this show was just it had a lot of funny moments. I mean, yeah, Drake, who was kind of being a player, like getting basically with every single girl. Even my favorite actress, Vanessa Hudgens, was in the episode in Drake and Josh, and I didn't even know that to a certain point. And then I watched it, so I was like, wow, she's actually in that episode. But yeah, Drake and Josh was just a very good show, very funny moments. Of course, you had the whole relationships. You had Drake going through a whole bunch of relationships, and you had Josh starting one with Mindy, ending Mindy, and then by the end of the show, Mindy and Josh ended up getting together. And the fact that they, at the first episode, Drake didn't want anything to do with Josh. He didn't want Josh as his brother. To the last episode where Drake and Josh competed in a dance contest, and they won together as brothers, and that's the way the show ended. That was just a great way to see Drake and Josh go out, and I'm glad they're still friends in real life. Number 8 is the show that spawned off of Drake and Josh, iCarly. Now, in my personal opinion, when it comes to the live action shows, iCarly's not up there for me. iCarly really isn't up there for me. I mean, of course, iCarly is based around the web series known as iCarly, with Miranda Cosgrove, Jeanette McCurdy, and Nathan Kress being Carly, Sam, and Freddie. Carly and Sam doing the jokes. That's how the show started off. And then you had a whole throughout the seasons, you had a whole relationship turmoil. Because you had Freddie who wanted to be with Carly, and then Freddy kissed Sam, and then Sam and Freddy fans started to get together, and then Carly kissed Freddy, and then you had that whole thing. But iCarly, he had a lot of sad moments. Of course, he had some movies. He had I Party with Victorious, which Victorious will most likely be on my list when we get closer to number one. And we had I Go to Japan, where they had that whole competition with Kiki. Oh, I forgot the two names. It wasn't Kiki. I'm not even sure, but iCarly wasn't just not up there for me when it comes to live action shows, and that's the reason why I have it so far down on my list at number 8. Number 7, Zoe 101. Zoe 101, basically another high school thing, PCA, Pacific Coast Academy, and we already knew from the first episode that eventually that Zoe and Chase would end up being together. But the way they played out through the storyline, having Zoe and Chase go through different boyfriends and girlfriends, and then when Chase left to go be with Zoe in England, and Zoe came back, and then Zoe ended up staying at PCA while Chase was in England, and of course, the last episode, he had Chase come back. Him and Zoe become official couple after Zoe broke it off with James, who... Funny enough, a lot of people don't really actually remember this, but James is played by Austin Butler, who was Vanessa's boyfriend like a couple of years ago, but they broke up. So, but in terms of Zoe 101, I look at the shows the way the show characters develop. The show, Logan and Quinn wanted nothing to do with each other, and look at that, they ended up being a couple by the end. Michael ended up, not knowing how not being in a relationship, they end up in a relationship. Basically, every single show, one of the show's main characters, around the time of the ending of the show, were in a couple, and that was just a good way to see Zoe 101 end, with Zoe and Chase being a couple, and I've heard they're bringing it back, so I can't wait to see how they're going to do this when it comes to that. Number 6. I really wanted to have this higher on my list, but I just couldn't put it higher on my list. Number 6 is Jimmy Neutron. I just want to say this. If I had done Nickelodeon couples, Jimmy and Cindy would have been in my top 5. Jimmy and Cindy would have been in my top 5. Jimmy and Cindy were the main part of the reason why I actually watched Jimmy Neutron as a show in total. You had other characters that were really cool in that. You had Sheen, you had Libby, you had Carl, you had Nick some of the times, and then you had some episodes where, Jimmy would fight off Professor Calamitous, what's her name? Beautiful, Gorgeous, the junk man. I'm trying to remember most of the villains on the show, and of course King Goobot, which that's how the show got spawned off of because of the movie, and so that's why I have Jimmy Neutron at number 6 on my list, but not in my top 5. Number 5, Victorious. Whew. This show gave us Ariana Grande. This show is the reason why Ariana Grande became so popular when she started as Kat. But of course, the main character was Victoria Justice, who had been on who had starred or appeared on some different shows. Obviously, Zoe 101. I didn't even talk about Victoria Justice in that show, but she ended up being in a relationship by the end. I think with Blake. I think that was the guy's name. I can't really remember. But then she got her own spin-off show in Victorious. And I just want to say this. If Victorious hadn't been canceled, Victorious would have probably been higher on my list because, look at all the characters. You got Tori, you got Andre and Tori should have definitely ended up being a couple. You got Kat, you got Robbie, you got Beck, you got Jade, you got Psycho, which one of the most favorite teachers in a teen Nick show going on around then. But yeah, I'm just very sad that Victorious got canceled and the way it ended, it should not end that way. But I gotta have it in my top 5. That's why I have it at number 5. And before I go on to this, I just remember that teen Nick show that I actually watched is not on here, and that's Degrassi. Because I did not consider Degrassi a teen Nick show, but it was on teen Nick, so Degrassi's not really on here. Number 4, we had Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. This show really was a good show because it taught you a lot of tips that people were going through around that time in middle school to high school. Like, Ned taught you a lot of tips about girls, like about anything, about bathrooms, about food, about teachers, about lessons, about tests, about quizzes. He taught you basically almost everything you're going to need to know if you're going to middle school / high school. And also, we saw some other characters' development because we saw Cookie go through a whole bunch of phases. Like Pea Cookie, you had a different type of Cookie. You had Cookie when he couldn't use his tech anymore, and you saw like how he was as a person. And then, of course, we had Ned and his best friend Mose, she I forgot who she liked at first, Seth, and then of course she got with Feynman, and then of course at the end of the show, in the final episode, she ended up getting with Ned as Susie got back with, what was his name? Loomer. Yeah, Susie ended up getting back with Loomer, but Ned being in a couple with Mose at the end, and then Cookie being in a relationship with Susie. Is it Susie? No, it's not Susie. Lisa Zemo. Yeah, Lisa Zemo by the end of the show. This is a very good way to have it. Number 3, Rugrats. I mean, if you're, I don't even care if you're at early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, late 2000s, you've had to see something that has to do with Rugrats. Rugrats is just a show that you can watch basically almost at any age. Like, Rugrats is still such a fun show. And it's just so good to see. You had Chucky, you had Tommy, you had Dill, who eventually came in, you had Angelica, you had Phil and Lil, you had Susie, who I was thinking of before. And then you had the show that spawned off of it, all grown up, but you can't have been early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s if you haven't seen Rugrats. Rugrats was just one of the best shows that was there at the time, and it still is to this day. I will personally still watch Rugrats if I have spare time to, because Rugrats is just that good of a show. But I can't have it as number 1, because at number 2, before I get into number 1, we have Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom, the guy that got ghost powers thanks to Sam, who told him to go into the ghost machine and check it out. Ended up getting ghost powers, started saving the day, stopping ghosts, like Skulker. Skulker's actually the only one. Desiree, another one of the characters, another one of the villains that he would always defeat. And then, of course, you had Danny Fenton, who was going through his own personal dealings through high school, liking girls, liking Paulina, who, now that I look back at it, Paulina wasn't really that cute in terms of the show. And, yeah, Tucker and his best friend Sam going through a whole bunch of dealings through high school, having fights, reconciling. And basically then, just in the end of the show on Phantom Planet, you had Tucker becoming the youngest mayor in Amity Park history. And you had Danny and Sam becoming an official couple after so much and so many different things happening between the two of them. But now we move on into our honorable mentions before we get into number 1. These are 4 to 5 shows that I had on the list. I got down to 16, but just didn't put in my top 10. Fairly Odd Parents. Of course, everybody knows about the Fairly Odd Parents. Fairly Odd Parents was a very good show before it got canceled. Big Time Rush. I'm not even gonna lie, guys. I love Big Time Rush, and it really sucked not putting them on this list, but I just couldn't have them on this list because Big Time Rush wasn't even it was popular, but it wasn't as popular as the top 10 I have in this list. SpongeBob. SpongeBob is a show back around 10 years ago where it was like really, really popping, but now it's not really that big, so that's why I don't have it on this list. And another show that not many of you probably heard is Rocket Power, which is a very good show. But now, at number 1 on my list of my top 10 Nickelodeon shows, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Whew! Where do I begin with Avatar: The Last Airbender? Aang being frozen in the block of ice, getting thawed out by Sokka and Katara, and then Aang basically just learning how to be Avatar, learning all the elements. Of course, you had book 1, which was water, book 2, which was earth, and then book 3, which is fire. You had Zuko, another character in the show that went through a whole bunch of developments, like he wanted to gain his honor by catching the Avatar, then he wanted to be the Avatar's friend, Then he captured his honor again by capturing the Avatar, like killing the Avatar. And then he became friends with the Avatar all by the end of the show. And then at the end, instead of gaining his honor from his father, he ended up becoming Fire Lord after his sister and after his father. So that was a very good character development with Zuko. And with Katara, I mean, she didn't know that much about waterbending at the beginning of the show. She mastered waterbending. Then she even learned some blood bending, which is actually very, very cool. Like, she went through a whole bunch of things with her father, like not seeing her father, then seeing her father, like seeing her grandmother's lost love in the first book, and then at the end of the show, obviously becoming coupled with Aang. And then you have Sokka, the other main character, who was basically a jokester at the time. I mean, he had the whole thing with Princess Yue. He met Suki, like he was kind of sexist towards Suki, and like that thing, but he eventually learned. He eventually started to like Suki, and then they got together, and then they kind of went on their own ways, got back together, and then at the end of the show, like they were basically ended up together. And of course, you had the final main character. I'd probably say is one of the coolest characters, Toph. Toph went from being a earthbending wrestling champion to learning how to metal bend and to be basically the first ever metal bender, which was a very cool thing to see. So that's why I have to have Avatar: The Last Airbender as my number one. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Please just smash the like button. I'll be posting more content like this. Probably more sports content, but like I said, you'll probably be seeing more content like this every single Saturday. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notifications so you know my videos go live. But anyway, guys, I will see you guys all later.